Good morning. Happy Saturday. Welcome back to the 6 a.m. Club. Every Saturday, we push out a bonus episode of the 6 a.m. Club here in the Leading Yourself podcast. And if you're new here and you're wondering, what is this 6 a.m. thing? Well, the 6 a.m. Club is something that I started this year, is my 2022 baby, if you will. But for years, I've been having a very consistent morning routine. And I actually have done a couple of episodes talking about my morning routine, but one component that I have been very intentional on adding into my morning routine is inspiration. And there's different ways that you can get inspired, but one way that I like to get inspired every morning is to pick a random quote and reflect on that quote and ask myself, what is this quote telling me today, and how can I apply it today in my life? And most of the days, I really get inspired. I would say every day. And I invite myself to take action that is actually helping me to take steps toward becoming that better version of myself. So this is something I do every morning, and I have here in the Leading Yourself podcast, a secret podcast, if you will, that you can get access to by subscribing, where every morning at 6 a.m. Eastern time, we pick a new quote and we talk about that quote. And I always close with an invitation to a call to action. And I decided, because I know the subscription is not available in every country and we have listeners from all over the world, that I wanted to bring this to you at least once a week. And it started on Fridays, and now it become a Saturday thing. And not always is at 6 a.m. because I don't always wake up that early as I do during the week. But here is our quote for the day. So today's quote is a little bit long, but let me read it to you. Everyone, stop for a second and be proud of yourself. Whether you've seen results, hit a plateau, reach your goal, or even just started today, you are trying. Let me read it one more time. Everyone, stop for a second and be proud of yourself. Whether you've seen results, hit a plateau, reach a goal, or even just started today, you are trying. And I think a lot of times we forget to stop and be proud of ourselves for trying. We live in a society that we're always pushed for achievement. Achievement is what we all should strive for. That's what we've been taught since we are kids. And what we are teaching our children a lot of times. And if you have read the book Mindset from Carol Dweck, I really, really recommend that book. It is one of my favorite books, and it talks about the concept of growth mindset. And it talks about how do we, educate our kids, and how can we develop that growth mindset in our kids. There is a section in the book. And one thing that stuck with me when I read that book is that as parents, we tend to push our kids for results, for achievement. And we recognize them for achievement, whether it's academic, whether it's at sports, or in any other area. But we fail a lot of times to recognize the effort. And when we are only focused on recognizing achievement, we might be missing a big opportunity to reinforce that growth mindset in our kids. And as I was reading this quote today, this is what came to my mind. And I think this applies to our kids, but applies to ourselves as well. How many times we just beat ourselves because we're still far away from that finish line. How many times we're just criticizing ourselves and judging ourselves. We tend to be our worst critics because we're not making enough progress, or because we haven't achieved the target yet we keep showing up and we don't recognize ourselves for the effort that we're putting, for the fact that we are trying. And I talked about on a previous podcast episode about reframing your rules or rewriting your rules. And one thing that has been a game changer for me is to rewrite my rules around success and failure. What does it take to feel successful, or what does it take to feel that I failed? And I'll tell you that for me, failure means when you stop trying, when you give up. As long as you don't give up, you haven't failed. And I think that's worth recognizing, and is worth being proud of the fact that we are being resilient, of the fact that we keep trying. And if we're trying, then I think it's worth that recognition and that sense of pride on ourselves. And the same applies to our kids, right? When we see them trying and not giving up, are we recognizing that, or are we just pushing for them to achieve something? So here's my invitation for you today. Here's the call to action. I think this weekend would be a great opportunity to take a pause and just think about all the things that you're proud of yourself, all the things that you are trying, all the things that maybe you haven't yet crossed that finish line, but you're still working on them. What are those instances that you can feel proud of yourself? And maybe journal on it or just think about it. And then if you are a parent, think about what are the things that you're proud on your kids, and take a moment to let them know that you are proud of them for trying, for putting the effort. So that's what I have for you today. I want to close, as always, by reading once more our quote from today, which says, "Everyone, stop for a second and be proud of yourself. Whether you've seen results, hit a plateau, reach your goal, or even just started today, you are trying." I hope you all have an amazing weekend. I will see you here back on Monday for a new episode of the Leading Yourself podcast.